We need to talk about the grief that comes with realizing the nonprofit you gave your heart and soul to is full of shit. And I do not use grief sparingly as someone whose best friend was unalived when I was 18. When you have spent your likely entire education, which can be years, and all of your work experience trying to pursue this cause, and you finally get in the organization that is like top tier, known for being like the lead in this mission, and you find out it is just as corrupt as every other organization you've been in, it is a loss. And it's a loss because it's not that it's just a job, right? And I know we don't need to have that much investment in our jobs. We need to have investments in other parts of our life. I agree with you. And for people who get involved in this kind of work, it's a loss of feeling like there is hope for the cause they do care about. One of my coaching clients who, without sharing any of her details, told me that she was coming to me because she had this happen. She had already grieved it. She used that term, grieved it, and she was ready to learn how to not be in this situation again. And that term, grieve, just really struck me because I've been there before. And this is not to say all nonprofits are that way. Like, I've seen some really great ones, but I've had the experience of getting to like the pinnacle and being like, wow, we're going to do so much, and being like, oh my God, we are part of the problem. And it's especially frustrating because people who go into this work often take major pay cuts, work insane hours, sacrifice their well-being, all for the mission, right? They're not just there to get a check. They're not working for Walmart or something, right? Like, they're working for the mission. But then they learn all of those donor relationships, board politics, and maintaining the image over impact might be the top priority. And when they speak up, they're punished for it and even shamed, and their own trauma or reason they pursue the mission might be used against them. You know me, I'm always going to talk about the unwritten rules of work from my research, and in this case, the unwritten rule of boundaries applies. This is the unwritten rule where people learn personal information about you to use against you later, but they come across as wanting to be your friend. A lot of social justice oriented organizations, whether academia, nonprofit, or just places that claim to have a strong mission but it's performative, there is like this drive to lay yourself bare, like that you are supposed to come in and expose all of your trauma and identities and why you are doing this work. And I think this is especially heavy post 2020, when a lot of performative stuff was happening, and then there was like the rise of a lot of white people, especially white women who had never done this type of work before, who were suddenly claiming to do like DEI work, and it was not going well. So I think the intentions in some cases can be good, of being like, what is your tie to this work? What is your role here? What's your story? Like, how is the lens that you view the world going to impact how you interact with people who are similar or different than you? But it can get taken too far and used to exploit you by people with power. For example, if somebody knows you were raised with a poor single mom, and you start setting boundaries at work and saying, I really need to be home, I can't work overtime, they might say, well, then I guess you don't care about all the single moms we serve, right? I've mostly worked in class and poverty work. When talking about that I need a livable wage, I've had people say, I guess you really don't care about poverty then. You're just greedy. I know it's really hard to set boundaries at work, not even in those conditions, but especially just in general when you are on the lower rungs of the ladder. I remember telling my advisor once I became like a senior consultant, my Ph.D. advisor was like, I'm so glad you're starting to set boundaries. And I was like, well, this is the first time I feel like I have enough authority to do that. But one thing you do have authority over is how much of your personal life you share at work. You don't have to tell people things that you are not comfortable with. You do not have to trauma dump to belong there. You can share why you care about a group, because you should just care about other people. And you can give a surface level response. People do need to earn your trust, because even in an organization that may have a lot of marginalized people there who care about the mission, there is still going to be power imbalances if that person is the CEO or your boss. And so while the power balances you have in society may be different, the power dynamic in that organization is still noteworthy. You can demonstrate your care for a community and your lived experience and knowledge without giving them trauma corn to use against you. You can also learn strategies for navigating office politics inside or outside of this space to help you campaign for change in a way that is effective, isn't abusive towards yourself, can even still drive the mission forward if you have the communication skills and strategy skills to know what these leaders are looking for. If you want to talk more, there's a link in my bio for a free 20-minute consult to see if we'd be a good fit working together.